there, Michelle here from McQuaid TV. We're helping you find ways to move from functioning to flourishing by putting the latest science to the real-world test. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce you to our special guest, Michelle Galan. Michelle is the founder of the Institute for Applied Positive Research and is an expert on the science of positive communication and how to use it to fuel success. She works with Fortune 500 companies and schools to raise employee engagement, productivity and happiness at work. Her research and advice have received attention from Forbes, USA Today, CNN, Fox and NPR, just to name a few. She's a partner at GoodThink, a positive psychology consulting firm, and she holds a Master's of Applied Positive Psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. Welcome, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for asking me to join you.
It's our pleasure. Michelle, I mentioned before we started the call that I recommend the book, The Happiness Advantage, to many of the organisations I work in. But perhaps you can tell us, why is happiness such an advantage when it comes to our work?
I think it's been fascinating to see the research coming out of neuroscience and positive psychology over the last 10 years or so. And what is, emerging as far as this theme. We think of happiness as sort of a byproduct of the things that we do or the success maybe that we can achieve. But what we're finding is that if we can prioritize happiness in the present moment, we actually see it's a major advantage in our life. And in particular, we've seen numbers like it's an increase of 3 times our creativity, 37% of sales. Organizations can dramatically change their bottom line. If a team cares about their level of productivity, we've seen an increase of 31%. And those are just some of the studies, but we see it across the board. When we prioritize happiness in the present moment, we actually see an incredible ripple effect in the future as far as our levels of success and also our connectedness to other people.
So do you find those insights are helping companies start to understand that perhaps happiness isn't a luxury or a soft skill as it's often been thought of, but more of a business fundamental?
Yeah, what's really interesting is that when we come to talk to some companies, they say, well, what other words can we use other than happiness? They actually worry about using that, but many others are very open to the thought because they've started to become exposed to this research, and they're finding that if they can help their employees be happier at work, those employees then in turn are more engaged, and all the business and educational outcomes improve. So to think of it, you're right, as a soft skill any longer is actually sort of antiquated thinking.
Is happiness, though, accessible to all of us? I mean, don't companies sometimes feel a bit worried that by trying to make their employees happier, that kind of change might not biologically be possible for all of us?
Well, there is a lot of research that looks at this genetic set point of happiness, that we all sort of start from our own individual baselines. And then there's other parts of our life that's malleable, our external circumstances, or in my opinion, those are part with how we process the world. So what we're seeing, though, is in the research, whatever our baseline is, however we were born into this world, a very optimistic person, a more pessimistic person, there is room for change and growth. And if we apply small habit and mindset shifts to our life, we can see incredible changes in the way our brain works, the way we scan the environment, and the way we process the world. So it almost becomes, regardless of our external circumstances, we can make big changes.
So I know you've been running this fabulous online course to help people understand how to create some of those changes. What are the 5 key researched habits for improving happiness that you recommend?
Yeah, this course has been so much fun. Mostly because we get to talk, I love talking about the science, obviously, all the time, but we get to run these experiments and people can try it out in their lives and we hear their stories, how it works. So some of the experiments we run is, so we have these 5 research habits. The first one is counting your gratitudes. This is writing 3 new and unique things that you're grateful for each day for 21 days. It has to be new and unique. And the idea with that is it changes how you scan your environment. If you know you got to write something down on a list at the end of the day, you're training your brain to look for the good things. The next one is journaling, and it's not some, you don't need a Hello Kitty diary or anything like that. It's very easy. It's 2 minutes of writing down everything that you can remember about the most meaningful moment you've had over the past 24 hours. The conversation you were having, what you said, or was the sun shining? Just recall everything. You want to get your brain to relive that moment and in essence double the number of meaningful moments you've had over the past 24 hours. So this one we've played around with the name of it. It's basically exercise, but it's also mindful activity. The key is to do 15 minutes of mindful activity each day. And what we've seen in the research, and this is a fascinating study, is that it actually can be the equivalent of taking an antidepressant. So it's not to say that those don't have a place in our lives if medically prescribed, but by doing exercise, we've actually seen that relapse rates into depression are even better. So the next one is a random act of kindness, and we encourage sending a very brief, like a 2-minute email to someone in your social support network, someone new and different each day for the period of 21 days, praising or thanking them. Not only are you activating your social support network, telling your brain how robust it is, but it's always nice to get those emails back. And the last one is attention training, which can also be called meditation, but very simply just take your hands off your keyboard if you're at work and just for 2 minutes, watch your breath go in and out. We've done this at major corporations, and what they find is that instead of having this sort of multitasking mindset, we are constantly paying attention to a bunch of different things. It helps you have laser-like focus to focus on one task for 2 minutes. Very challenging, but for those who can do it, they end up feeling as if their attention for the future is better when they return back to work or whatever they're doing. So again, all of these, they take basically just 2 minutes, except for the exercise, and they're meant to be done for 21 days. And in the research, they've just shown remarkable results in changing how we feel on a regular basis.
So if someone undertakes those shifts for the 21 days of the online program, what kind of results are you seeing in their work?
Well, if, for instance, with gratitudes, a lot of people say, "Oh, I've been pessimistic my whole life." Well, they might not admit it, but or I know my husband's very grumpy. He's been this way his whole life. I'm not really confident this person can change. What we saw is that if you take 84-year-old grumpy pessimists who've been doing it their whole life, right? They have lots of practice, and I'm sure they're very proud of how they feel, and you put them through doing the gratitudes for just 21 days. You see that instead of testing as low-level pessimists, they start to move up to low-level optimists. If they keep the practice up for 6 months, many of them test as low to moderate level optimists. What it shows us is that no matter what age you are, no matter who you are, there is a way to shift our brain, even just ever so slightly, that can then make a big difference in our days.
So I love the way you're sort of structuring those exercises, 21 days, and really trying to build the habits. Do people stick with it after the 21 days are up, or what tends to happen?
Yeah, which is so exciting. I get these emails. People are like, I have this huge notebook full of my journals, and it's really neat. I get to look back over the past 6 months, or lots of people keep this up for a long time. The key is not to just do it for the 21 days or just when you're, having a really terrible time. Those are great resources for when your mind is not in its best space. But what's even better is to do it when you're feeling good, when life is good. Keep that habit up, because that in turn, I think, builds up a set of resources for us, and it helps buffer our brain against the stress and the negativity that we can feel when times get tough.
Having practiced many of those habits for a while, I know it's certainly helped me to be able to navigate kind of the highs and lows that we all experience from time to time in life. But what about when happiness feels a long, long way away at work? Maybe our boss is driving us mad, or the deadlines of a particular project are crushing in. What can we do when we're under a lot of stress and those happiness habits just don't seem to be creating the shift we need?
Well, I say start small. The ones I like the most are the habits that involve other people. In particular, I love the random acts of kindness where you send a positive email or positive text message first thing in the morning. The number one predictor of our happiness is our levels of social support. I love Ed Diener says, he's another researcher, which I know you know well. He says, if you can get friends, get them, because it's the key to happiness. So you don't have to have a lot of friends. It doesn't have to be, I've known these people since high school. We go way back. It's just having a handful of meaningful connections with other people. So I say start small and work your way up from there, but have patience, because it does take time. If we have neural pathways that are built in our brain for our whole life, it takes a little bit of time to sort of get moving. And so we saw great work with these 84-year-olds and in just 21 days, but I just say stick with it and see what happens.
Now, I know for some of us, we worry that working on our own happiness feels a little bit selfish and self-indulgence. In organisations, are there good reasons why, particularly if we're in leadership roles or we're key members in a team, we should really be looking after our own happiness in the interest of everybody's well-being?
Absolutely. And that's actually at the core of the work that I do and the research that I conduct. I look at the positive communication and how you as a leader, and I call them broadcasters because I think we're all broadcasters, how you can influence other people. So as you know, my background's in media. I was a national anchor in the United States with CBS News. So a lot of the work I do draws on looking at the things that I learned there as a journalist and how to spread messages and stories, but infusing it with the positive psychology research to look at how do you become the most effective leader? What if you have negative people on your team? What if you're dealing with high levels of stress? How do you present yourself at work in a way that's going to give you all the things you're looking for, high performance from you and others around you, a happy experience at work, and obviously the bottom line for many organizations is very important as well. And what I'm finding is that the more optimism and positivity you can infuse in the way you communicate with other people, the better off you are. I think too often people either default to negativity because that's sort of the social script of the office, or they have a missed opportunity when they go neutral. When neutrality is a missed opportunity to connect with other people, to bring out the best in them. So when we are more positive, then we see this positive ripple effect that I mentioned off the top, which is all the business and educational outcomes shifting. You can impact other people's brains. It's just a matter of having sustained positivity and optimism in the way you connect with other people.
So how do leaders do that in a way they feel confident they're not going to be viewed as too nice or, too soft or too unrealistically optimistic at the office?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the thing is to think back on how the person that's made the most impact on your life, it was probably a very supportive, kind, caring individual. So maybe striving to be that kind of person to other people. As far as just day-to-day strategies, I talk about the power lead. If it bleeds, it leads. That's how we lead our newscast, right? So I say take the opposite approach, because we see when something is stressful and negative, it fires off the amygdala in our brain. We go into fight or flight, and we don't have all the brain resources we need to think through problems and challenges and come up with great solutions. And that's the kind of brain we need at the office, right? We need that calm brain. So the power lead is taking the opposite tack. It's starting off all emails, conversations, and meetings, any kind of interaction you have with someone else, start it off with something positive. And it's not intended to be something that's ignoring reality around us, but grounded in reality. Since we last met, I think that this team has done exceptionally well at X, Y, and Z. I'm grateful for the fact that you have such team cohesiveness. However, it is related to the business, but give people the praise, the recognition that they need to fuel them and help their brain unlock its potential.
Michelle, thank you so much. That's such practical, easy to apply advice, I think, for many of us, no matter what our roles are in organisations. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thanks so much, Michelle.
If you're wanting to learn about the science of happiness and how you can use it to be more successful, then I highly recommend Michelle's instructor-led 4-week online course, kicking off this fall if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or spring for those of us down south. You can find all the details at goodthinkinc.com. Of course, in the meantime, if you're looking for more tested, practical and playful ways to move from functioning to flourishing at work, be sure to stop by michellmcquaid.com, leave your name and email address so you can hear all our news first. Thank you so much for watching Shell McQuaid TV. Remember, you are good enough, so don't be afraid to let your light shine. Until next time, take care.